Everyone. Wanted to check in and see how everyone is doing, and also just provide you with a few little updates. But I guess in terms of logistics, are we recording? So looking at Ken or Amita, we're in record mode. Okay, fantastic. All right, so things continue to move forward. Extremely busy fall ahead of us. We have lots going on. And some of our most recent, I guess, topics for FY25, particularly program planning, was rolled out at the Licensed Site Professional Association membership meeting that just took place last Thursday. So a big thanks to the LSPA for inviting myself and Ken Mara to provide a little bit of a year in review with data analytics, measures of success, program updates, and also just looking to the future. Likewise, we also shared with the LSPA a short video that highlighted a lot of our new staff that were hired through the expansion positions process last year. So it was just, hopefully it was well received and hopefully shows a little bit of a different dimension with regards to our theme, which is really community and conversation for FY25, tackling significant challenges and partnering to ensure that we can get to the finish line in a way that's protective of human health and the environment. I place significant value in that partnership, and I look forward again to working with each and every one of you. So just from my end, last week, we presented a little bit on MassDEP operations, just making sure that everyone had notice regarding who constitutes the senior staff across the agency. We also focused on, again, excuse me, the theme of community and conversation in highlighting all of the various forums by which MassDEP communicates both internally and externally. And I believe, Ken, our next seniors Scientific Advisory Board meeting will be on November 21st. Is that?
Yeah, November 21st, the third Thursday in November. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we have that in the program plan, of course. We're going to be meeting, and we have actually refreshed that format just a little bit, bringing in LSPA and the LSP board, both executive directors, and in this case, also the president and the chair, to provide weigh-in, some comment, feedback regarding what's going on in their associations, respective associations, and also the board. So that's a little bit new. In addition to that, also, we are striving to ensure that we bring in new content by way of speakers. So that's also something that we have imparted a little bit of more freshening up at the SAC level. We talked a little bit about MassDEP operations, budget, and hiring. We noted that FY24 was a win for MassDEP on so many fronts, especially the expansion positions. The department was able to hire, and we are retaining and mentoring, basically retaining through mentoring and providing professional development opportunities to brandy new professionals that are coming in through the double doors to assist across many of the programs that MassDEP is tasked with implementing. In addition to that, the Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup was very fortunate to have some strategic moves. I will highlight John Ziegler, who's our new PFAS coordinator, a position that was sorely needed to ensure that we can bring in commentary, implementation of many, many things that we're doing to address the PFAS issues, including also generating new SOPs, the Q&As, that's a big significant thing that we're doing, and then focus added on imminent hazard evaluation and derivation of numerical numbers that will help guide our next approach to imminent hazards across the Commonwealth. So stay tuned on that. Likewise, we also hired and are retaining an environmental justice coordinator. That's another important feature of our hiring strategy. Let's see. Next, we also talked a little bit about MassDEP operations. and the IT updates. We basically spoke about the major system redesign and the upgrade that took place back in June 2022. We spoke a little bit about the process optimization, in addition to also streamlining the need for doing all this basically as a result of ensuring that we can get in front of any security issues, and likewise ensuring that we have enough data storage. Likewise, all of this testing took place in 2023, and we were able to launch this new system in 2024. We're still testing the system. We also provided some links that spoke about performing BWSC data searches, where to go, the EEA data portal, in addition to also the wayside cleanup reportable release view file viewer. We provided those links. And by the way, I will happily, I believe that the whole presentation is available on the web, but I will double back and check Ken and Amita. If we haven't posted it, we should definitely post it to ensure that everyone has it. Let's see. We also spoke a little bit about the 2024 MCP amendments implementation and how we come about with arriving at things that warrant some more guidance is really actually through the portal. We get a lot of comments regarding how the MCP is actually working in the real world. And whenever there are questions, comments, concerns, we do receive all those questions, comments, and concerns from the external public, whether it's licensed site professionals, the regulated community, the scientific community, and even ourselves internally. So we have been basically addressing all of the issues associated with implementation by way of developing Q&As, in addition to a whole bunch of guidance documents that Ken Mara's group is at this moment working on. And some of those materials are actually either available or will be available for public comment, and Ken can speak to those. MCP amendments, of course, we did all of the outreach and training. And now, again, as I stated, new and updated Q&As in addition to guidance and policies, and also the short forms. That was another feature that speaks to our ensuring that the amendments are implemented in a way that resonates with the design and intention behind these amendments. We also, at the association meeting, also highlighted that from our standpoint, the PFAS plot continues to thicken. Not only are we supporting the Bureau of Water Resources drinking water program, but also keeping an eye on the wastewater and residuals biosolids issues. A new one for us that we are taking very seriously and joining in with ORS speaks to septic systems as a potential or known source of contamination impacting private wells. We are imparting some scientific research around that by way of doing some literature search with regards to PFAS signatures that are maybe associated with septic systems. So we're starting on that process. Likewise, working with BAW, the AIR program, to further develop an understanding regarding emissions and dispersions of PFAS in the environment. Landfills, there's a active landfills initiative, and we are tied into that particular BAW solid waste initiative because we are providing assistance once there's a potential source that emanates from landfills. It crosses over to the 21E MCP world, and therefore we are there to support immediate response actions and address critical exposure pathways as well as eminent hazards. So we have that very tight-knit, close relationship with the BAW solid waste group. Likewise, 21E and federal sites, we've been super active on the federal sites front, especially since the recent July 2024 announcement by EPA that now perfluorinated compounds are deemed hazardous substances as per CERCLA. So what that means for us is that in our role as a concurrent agency for a lot of Superfund as well as federal facility sites, when we put our MCP glasses on, we are now looking for perfluorinated compounds and how that may change the complexion of what we know at the site, or whether we need to fold in new thinking, obviously in conjunction with EPA when it comes time to records of decisions or decisions regarding new work that needs to happen at Superfund or federal facility sites. So that's extremely active. Likewise, AFFF foam take-back program, we are happy to announce that we're continuing on with supporting that particular very important AFFF foam take-back program. We will continue to move forward with that in FY25 and also potentially explore other ways of getting rid of the foam from the environment. So stay tuned on that. We also spoke about the PFAS omnibus legislation. We know that the legislation went nowhere in the last session, but we are anticipating that it will go somewhere in the next legislative cycle starting January 2025. So we are poised to provide much support to the actual process. So stay tuned on that. And finally, MassDEP continues to support the Attorney General's office multi-district litigation, which is ongoing. And I'm sorry, there was a question. If someone can read the question for me. On the chat.
Oh, hi, Millie. Yeah, I just was wondering, there's some people that aren't on mute and it's causing some distractions I just was wondering if people could mute themselves. That'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Please kindly mute yourself, and we will happily, if you have any questions, definitely raise your hand and we'll get to you. Thank you so much, Charles. Okay, so John, I'm actually going to put you on the spot. I have some points with regards to our PFAS mini program plan approach, but basically, we continue to do site discovery upon learning that a public water supply might be affected. The PRPID identification, that's sort of our signature, go out and try to find sources. And when we find those sources, then use our administrative processes to connect with those individuals, whether it's RFIs, a request for informations, or, trying to get access agreements entered into so that we can actually do some sampling. And then imminent hazard mitigation, we always, as per the statutory requirement, we are basically responsible for ensuring that IHs are abated, eliminated, or mitigated when party cannot perform that action. And we always start with bottled water and then move on to poets. And John is working hard to sort of understand the science behind points of use systems, which may have some promise, but obviously it's got to be in a installation or availing ourselves to that particular approach needs to be rooted in science and risk assessment and with an eye on protectiveness. And then, of course, the remediation, we're following the training, technology tracking, and then research and development. But I'll stand back, John. You have some really good statistics with regards to how many households are receiving bottled water, the POET systems, etc. So I invite you to give a lot of that PFAS commentary to our friends joining in today.
Yeah, thanks, Millie. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, just I think we updated at our last meeting, but we have 173 PFAS sites under with RTNs that are under investigation, and there's still a fairly large number of sites, almost 30% of them, for which we have not yet identified a source. And as Millie mentioned, source discovery is certainly a priority for the department, and we are working through that. And many of these sites have come to us either through the drinking water program, where a public water supply well has been impacted, or from the Bureau of Air and Waste that oversees landfills. And so, we continue to coordinate with those folks. But again, our priority is when we've identified PFAS in a public or a private well is to quickly try to identify the source. As Millie mentioned, where we have not identified a PRP, or the PRP is either unwilling or unable to address an imminent hazard condition, DEP has been stepping in and installing point of entry treatment systems that consist of 2-vessel granular activated carbon systems. We are, as Millie mentioned, we are continuing to look into point of use and whether or not they may be effective in some cases. We're not quite there yet in making that determination. So what we do is we install the point of entry treatment. Millie also mentioned bottled water. We certainly consider supplying bottled water as soon as possible after the discovery of an imminent hazard to be feasible. And we do implement that currently. I think we have about 50 point of entry treatment systems that we are operating, and we're supplying bottled water to another 30 or so sites while we get a point of entry treatment system up and running. So that's kind of what the universe is right now of the sites. Again, about 30% of them, we're still trying to discover sources. And as you can imagine, more sites come in, every day. That number keeps increasing. It has slowed a bit because in the, say, 2020 to 2022 time period, was when all the public water sources were required to conduct PFAS sampling. But we're up to 16 notifications so far this year, but I expect that will continue to increase. And just a couple of other things that Millie mentioned as far as other priorities for us. We are continuing to work on guidance documents. I know we've said this at several of our past recent meetings, but I think the most likely thing to come out next will be the CAM protocol for EPA method 1633, which is the recommended preferred method when doing a waste site cleanup investigation. That should be next. We are continuing to populate our Q&A document and going through internal review on that. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to announce a draft that will be available for folks to review. And then next on the list, of course, will be the Department Sampling and Analysis Guidance document that hasn't been updated in a while, but I think it was November 2023. It's still a very good resource. Another really good resource that I would direct people to is ITRC's PFAS guidance document. There's a lot of great information in there regarding, source assessment, remediation. So again, hopefully, we'll have our own guidance document out in the near term. And then I also just wanted to highlight, I am participating in the PFAS workshop at the AEHS UMass conference on October 21st. That goes from Monday from 1 to 5, and Dr. Mark Smith at ORS is joining me in that workshop. And there's several other speakers talking about remediation, analytical, Jim Accolini from Alpha. And then, of course, Mark and I will be doing the regulatory piece on that. So hope to see many people there. And I think there's an online option also if you can't be in person. And yeah, I think that's those are the priorities and things I just wanted to mention.
Oh, that's great, John. Thank you so much. And I definitely registered for the AHS conference. And speaking of ORS, ORS has stayed really super busy also on the PFAS front. They're currently completing their 3-year review of the PFAS science, and this is part of a regulatory requirement under the MassDEP, Bureau of Water Resources, drinking water regs. Also, that all is going to lead into the actual amending their drinking water regulations. And as we have talked about in the past, Our Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup is watching everything very closely. What happens in the drinking water program matters and affects our site cleanup program insofar as groundwater standards that we always our intention is to harmonize those numbers to ensure that we don't set the public to fail or the LSPs to fail by way of confusing different endpoints and different standards. So therefore, we're watching the science. And a very interesting sort of nuance in the world of PFAS science is a lot of research that is pointing to the use of the PK modeling of PFAS serum concentrations in the blood, and how that translates into is impacting PFAS drinking water sampling frequency. This is again for the drinking water program. And for us, that's going to help us further derive an imminent hazard concentration that, in fact, resonates with the new science. So stay tuned on that. Likewise, what also ORS is imparting and shedding some light on has to do with PFAS in drinking water beyond the Massachusetts PFAS 6. So we know the federal rulemaking came out with 6 PFAS that are commonality PFAS for us, but then they had their additional 2, which we don't have. And then we have additional 2 that they don't have. So it's still sort of in the process of reconciling itself through finalization of this 3-year, the triennial review, the PFAS science. And I know that ORS is going to be holding a public meeting in the near future to basically unveil our results of the scientific research. Likewise, I stated before, the PFAS signatures from private septic systems, LitSearch, ORS is spearheading that, and also confirming what we know about the PFAS soil background data for PFAS 6 and let's say plus. We want to make sure that we get it right, the science is right with regards to the need to amend our existing soil numbers. And then separate apart, not related to DEP, there's lots of work that's happening with regards to the fluorinated containers that have trace concentrations of PFAS. And our West laboratory is also expanding their capability for analytical capacity expansion for PFAS purposes. So just lots and lots going on. We spoke a little bit about the Take Back program, and just to let you know, more granular level, that program actually has been around since 2018. Not every single state and territory across the nation has that program. We're one of the very few fortunate states that actually can raise their hand and say, yes, we're taking the PFAS out of the environment in conjunction, working with Mass Department of Fire Services in all of the municipalities and their departments that identify whether it's legacy foam or the more modern foams with lower levels of PFAS compounds. We're providing that service. Thus far, we have 157 participants with over 48,000 gallons of AFFF foam collected, to the tune of almost $785,000 have been expended on this effort, but it's good money spent. And again, we're going to be relaunching our efforts and also connecting with our neighbors in the New England states. I recently spoke with the state of New Hampshire, and they actually have a different way and approach to this particular program. So we're just gathering ideas as to what other New England states and other states across the nation are doing to, again, avail themselves to these types of technologies to address the AFFF foam. I guess I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that we're also spending a lot of time on environmental justice and really pointing to a lot of the work that we do to environmental justice communities. We are, never mind hiring and recruiting, we have Abby Anderson, who's our environmental justice coordinator. Likewise, we also are performing a lot of community engagement, public outreach, and also addressing limited English proficiency by way of providing translation services, preparing trifolds, or as many necessary languages incorporated into fact sheets. So this is very important for us. Likewise, ensuring that we expand the lens of our grant program to ensure that we are connecting and resonating with projects that take place in environmental justice communities. So I'm really happy and grateful to our entire staff for devoting so much time and ensuring that we incorporate environmental justice considerations. Since we don't have permits, typically, at least ensuring that we have environmental justice considerations in the way that we select grants through that lens also. So that was something that something we continue to spend a lot of time, and also targeting removal actions, those types of things to ensure that we can address blight and contamination. So we, at the LSPA meeting, identified a few examples of projects where we've come in working with the community and performed significant removal actions, coupled also with a lot of work that is happening, not only at these types of sites, but also brownfield sites. So we're really excited. We actually have technical assistance grants that just recently closed, the opportunity to apply for grants. And these are, again, the technical assistance grants. This is our 4th year providing this type of service. And it closed on September 6th. We're currently in the process of evaluating everybody who applied. And, stay tuned. We're going to let you know who were the folks that actually were selected to, be provided with some funding availability up to $20,000 per award. So again, stay tuned on that. Just to kind of close the loop on our reporting here, brownfields and outreach support. We are using the very old school model of getting concentrated effort at the table to ensure that we can address brownfields in a very intentional way, knowing that sometimes projects is not just a 21E program that stands in the way to get to redevelopment, but also, for example, you may have wetlands issues or floodplain and stormwater management issues, or you may have asbestos issues when it comes to demo and renovating a building, hazardous waste management, and again, classic MCP compliance. So we are following this very successful and proven process to bring concentrated assistance at the table. If you have a project that may involve multiple programs, including permitting, we are joining hands with the permit reform and ensuring that, again, we can be facilitators to get to yes on the actual way of getting the projects moving forward and transformed and doing all the brownfields redevelopment. So just self-identify yourself, give us a call, contact me, contact Diane Baxter or David Foss, and we will happily ensure that we have a winning team for you so that we can actually move brownfields redevelopment in a way that it's at the pace of what you expect for things to move. So we're happy to be partnering with you on that. Yeah, we talked a little bit about NRD, some really successful projects. Likewise, emergency response projects. We had some really good discussion about some of the real high visibility projects, emergency response that were conducted by all the regions. And then we ended up closing the loop with some discussion around our MOSPRA program, also another active program with grants. And in May 2024, we selected 15 firms and municipalities, 9 municipalities, 3 nonprofits, and 2 private organizations to basically, I want to say, just expend almost $690,000 in doing projects that are important projects to safeguard our shoreline, coastline, and protect our environment in a marine environment. So that was really a big win. So we're staying busy, and we look forward to continuing our partnership across the board. Ken had a lot to say about their guidance status updates. I don't know, Ken, if you want to summarize it in a few minutes so that we can kind of bring everybody up to speed.
Yeah, like I mentioned at the meeting last week, there's a lot of guidance documents that are on our plate. The most immediate one that's been a number one priority for a long time is the AUL guidance document, and the target is to have that back as a final document signed off on by the end of this calendar year. We had a question from Wendy about I mentioned, I guess last week, that there were 17 chapters in the risk assessment guidance document that's been coming out in waves. And I guess chapters 14 through 17 were unknown. So I sent Wendy the draft table of contents, but for those who are wondering about it, that includes the eco risk sections for aquatic, terrestrial, and wetlands. And there's also, let's see, it looks like there's about 7 or 8 different appendices that will also be in the guidance document. In addition to that, there's, as John Ziegler mentioned, the 3 PFAS type documents are the Q&A, the interim sampling, and the PFAS compendium of analytical methods protocol, and then the COM24 soils policy, which we've been working on as a very high priority to allow and specify how soil can be transported from one 21E site to another 21E site as part of the permanent solution at the receiving site, which obviously is a little bit tricky to think when you think about that in terms of technical, regulatory, and legal issues that involves. On the list, the laundry list of policies and guidances that are out there also include VPH, EPH, off-gas treatment, public involvement, the UST closure assessment manual, the good old master Q&A, and then the EDEP short forms have been updated and they're posted, and then also the EDEP forms have been updated and are posted, and also the risk assessment short forms have been updated and they're also posted. So that's in a nutshell what's on our plate.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we will provide this, this particular presentation. We'll make sure that we post it on our webpage. So in summary for us in FY25, staff hiring, retention, and cultivating a vibrant workplace culture. That's really the North Star for us this year. Instilling environmental justice, PIP, and climate considerations into the work that we're doing. Of course, PFAS all the time, every time. That's not going to go away. And we're going to see a little bit of challenge initially. We're doing our sensitivity analysis to better understand how these new numbers will obviously augment our universe of sites. So we are diligently and very carefully taking all considerations as we start digging into policy. Also, ensuring that we have the guidance, completing the guidance around the soils COM24 policy. That's something that we're actively working. We meet every Friday, so we are committed to seeing that through. The waste site cleanup systems optimization and data analytics, that will continue, of course. Then our emergency response and preparedness, we are just closing out on a huge contract that will lead our next 7 years of contractors across the Commonwealth to get in front of emergencies. So that contracting process was huge and very important, and we're completing that. Audits, compliance, enforcement, that's still a thing. So we continue to support that, imparting guidance and assisting the regions where most of the enforcement happens at the regional level, with consultation in the Boston office. Cost recovery fees, revenues, and the contractor response. Obviously, our technical financial support is amazing. The staff there ensuring that all of the fees are collected. And again, we're billing and doing all the things we need to do, fulfilling every single grant obligation. That is something, again, we have the tags, we have the NRDs, and we have MOSPRA. So those are the 3 focal points for grants, and we are working hard to get that money out to the right places to ensure that we can actually do our job in the environment, out in the Commonwealth, across the board. Partnership building, very important. We continue to find ways, and if you have ideas as to how we can continue to strengthen our partnerships, again, that community and conversation is very important for me personally. Please let me know. We are happy to visit. We're happy to talk. We're happy to host. We are happy to do whatever you think needs to be done in this hybrid era. Site cleanup, again, representation of public forums, and professional forums as well. I'm happy to report that we continue to partner with EPA, with the Department of Defense, with SWAMO, which is the Association of States and Territorial Solid Waste Management Officials. That's an environmental national association that we have representation across all the states and the 5 territories and the District of Columbia, ensuring that we have a strong voice in policymaking in Washington, so we continue to represent there. NUMOA, also another mini at SWAMO, mostly all the New England states plus New York. ITRC, the Licensed Site Professional Association, the Environmental Business Council, NIOP, AHS, and then, of course, the Municipal Massachusetts Health Officials Association. So we try to be everywhere, wherever we can, and we thank you for further opportunities to be present and work together as a team. So that's our report back, and I'll happily take any questions, or I'll happily listen to anything that we need to be aware of, so we can actually continue to join forces and make sure that we can deliver for you. So any questions or comments or feedback, we'll happily take it. Is there anything in the chat before we close? If there's no comments, no? All right.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions in the chat. Millie, I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me.
No worries. Someone was asking John Ziegler about the 173 PFAS sites. Wondering if they have data on how many have identified sources as a firefighting event or fire training.
Yeah, we have that statistic. It's actually in a pie chart, right, John?
Yes, I thought I replied in the chat. Apologize if you couldn't see it, but it's approximately 50 of the sites of the 173 are AFFF related. And then, as I mentioned previously, about 30% of the sites are still unknown what the source is. And then, the remaining are related to, a manufacturing site or a landfill, some other source that we've been able to identify that's not AFFF. But about 50 of the sites are AFFF.
Thanks for that, John.
Yeah.
And Millie, if I could, I just want to, for the old timers and people who knew him, I would want to make note of the passing of Ed Kuntz. I don't know if people have been made aware of that. If you didn't know Ed, he was a regional director in the Northeast region and then a deputy commissioner. And I want to tell one story. When I was regional director in Central and he was in Northeast, the Commissioner Russ Silva, who lived out in Metro West, came in one day and said, "Hey, I was driving home and saw my kid and his friends playing on a pile of soil outside of a gas station where tanks had been pulled, and the material, the plastic covering it was blowing around, and so they were running around on the soil. We got to get rid of that." And we went into a 48-hour lockdown with Tom McLaughlin and a bunch of folks to develop the policy on getting started on recycling, reusing contaminated soil from gasoline stations in asphalt batching, which kind of grew obviously into what we know it to be. But for those who knew Ed, the only other story I'll tell about him is we were also in a room of about 100 people working on some policy, and somebody was being annoying about, and it wasn't me, but about like wordsmithing stuff. And Ed stood up and said, "Hey, where were you when the paper was white?" Making the point of, everybody can chime in when it's already been written, but who put it together to begin with. But sad to lose Ed, sorely missed, but obviously a great contributor to what DEP is today.
Oh my goodness, Barry, I'm so happy that you've taken this moment, and sometimes you're so right. Sometimes we are so hyper focused on the data and the science and the reporting, and what a shame had it been that we would have missed out on this opportunity for you to pipe up and you know um, recognize the life of one of our luminaries. I tell you, I have many Ed Kun stories. He was larger than life, booming voice, commanded so much power. And at the same time, he was just a gentle soul. And I tell you, in my former life as regional director in Southeast region, we have a site down there, the Mass Military Reservation, now Joint Base Cape Cod. And the challenges are unbelievable. And it's day and night. You've got um, chlorinated solvents in the cantonment area in the 5,000 acres in the south. And then, of course, in the northern portion of the facility is 15,000 acres of, that's the Army side. So Air Force and Army. And then you've got, PFAS, and there's all this, the DOD. And in the early days, working with EPA, EPA came out with this really unique way of getting at these constituents of concern in the upper 15,000 acres, because you've got all these things, the intended use. Well, we intended to train. And so how are we going to be cleaning up under surplus? So EPA came out with the Safe Drinking Water Act to basically organize and move forward all that cleanup. Well, we've got these munition sites, or so we think. It's the part of the MMR piece. And we don't know what to do. How clean is clean when it comes to unexploded ordnance and the MEC munitions and explosives constituents? And good old Ed, he just comes to the fold. And he basically said, well, as a former Army sergeant, let me tell you, this is how we used to do it. And they would never leave this munition here, or, here's the way to discriminate between, something that's a Coke bottle or this. We couldn't have done it without Ed. His real world experience serving for our country, his military background, his no nonsense approach. It was just public service at its best.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, we lost a good one. There's so many sites that I drive around, and I'm like thinking to myself, we got that done because of Ed, because
Right.
he cut through all of the nonsense and just got to work. And that's the kind of person, that's the kind of leader that inspires me.
Yeah.
So
Great.
thank you, Barry, for, this moment of, celebration of Ed's life and his many contributions. Great guy. Fantastic. Well, on that note, if we don't have any more comments, excited to see you in November. We are wondering if we should have an in-person or hybrid meeting. I think that's one thing that I'm working with all the division directors and sort of figuring out. We'd love to see you. Maybe again, an opportunity to provide in-person contact, as well as also provide hybrid, because getting to Boston is sometimes tough. But we'll be there if you want us to be there, and we're happy to engage with you. And I know, Matt, you had that initial question regarding submittal of paper, 120 day, no RTN, et cetera. We'll get back to you to ensure we straighten it out, and that, there's no delay from the DEP end. So
thank you, Millie. Thank you.
Of course. So we will be seeing you very shortly. And again, we'll have some new content, some progress, moving ahead a lot of the things, and bringing you to the fold for commentary. And always welcome just perspective. So important to get to the finish line.
And you will have office hours in October?
Yeah, we can probably, I think that's the plan.
Yes,
right,
I was going to say, we do have the third Thursdays of every month is office hours, unless we're having advisory committee meetings. So the third Thursday of October is October 17th. So that'll be in office hours, but we'll send out a notice for that too. But those are, as you know, those are a little less those are more informal than the full-blown advisory committee meeting, but we will have it is on the calendar for October 17th, same time as today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. So wonderful to see you. Thank you for your ongoing support. We really, truly appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
So long.
Thanks.